Good afternoon, and thank you for joining today. It's 4 o'clock on Tuesday, September 17th. We'll call to order and go into land acknowledgement. As we gather today, I'd like to acknowledge on behalf of Council and our community that we are meeting on the traditional territory of the Algonquin people. We'd like to thank the Algonquin people and express our respect and support for their rich history, and we're extremely grateful for their many and continued displays of friendship. We also thank all the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years. Moving on to any declarations of pecuniary interest. None being heard, we'll move on to confirmation of council agenda.
That council adopt the agenda for the September 17th, 2024 regular council meeting.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Webster, seconded by Councillor Campbell. Thank you. All in favor? Thank you. We'll move on to Section 5 for delegations for our public meeting. And happy to say that we've got consultant from JP2G joining us back again. Thank you for being here on page 3. And I will pass it over to you.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor Proctor, and good afternoon, members of council. My name is Anthony Homick, and I am the manager of planning at JP2G, and I'm a senior planner as well. You will recall that I was here on July 16th to present the development charges background study. I'm pleased to be back in front of you this afternoon to once again present the background study together with the implementing bylaw for your consideration. This meeting constitutes the statutory public meeting that is required under the Development Charges Act. And it's also worth noting that the Act requires that the background study be made available to the public at least 60 days prior to the passing of the bylaw, which has been done. The Act further requires that the draft bylaw be made available 2 weeks prior to the public meeting, and the bylaw before you has been available since the end of July. As of last Thursday, the township has not received any comments from members of the public on either the background study or the draft bylaw. So, by way of background, the current development charges regime was adopted by the province in 1997. Simply put, a development charge is a fee charged to pay for increased capital costs required because of increased needs for services arising from development and growth. Development charges can be collected for each new dwelling unit, with some exceptions, and new commercial industrial development. The Act includes a requirement for municipalities to undertake a supporting background study if they wish to pass a bylaw to collect development charges. And a new background study is required each time a new bylaw is passed. As you are all likely aware, the township did pass a development charges bylaw in 2018, but that bylaw expired in May 2023. And therefore, a new development charges bylaw is required in order for the township to resume collecting development charges. Our study was aimed at determining a development charge rate structure that will not require existing taxpayers to contribute to the capital costs of new growth that is anticipated to occur in the township. The overarching purpose of the study is to identify the services to which the development charges relate, the increase in the need for a service that is due to growth, the net growth-related capital costs of services for which a development charge will be collected, and the capital costs of the service that will be incurred during the 10-year term of the bylaw. And as I mentioned last time, the Development Charges Act has been amended at least 9 times that I could count in the last 5 years or so. And there have been many, many changes that are summarized in the background study report, if anybody wants to read into that a little bit further. The most relevant changes to the township, though, that should be pointed out are that it cannot charge a development charge for an additional residential unit, and that a development charge bylaw is now valid for 10 years, whereas previously it expired after 5. So this update was initiated prior to that change to allow the 10-year term of the bylaw, and our study does assume that the township will want to continue to revise the bylaw every 5 years. The methodology used in our study is prescribed by the Development Charges Act, and it can be summarized as follows. The first step in the study is to review demographic and development trends in the township to determine population and household counts over the last 10 years. An inventory of the services provided over the last 10 years within eligible service categories was undertaken, and combined with the results of the population and household counts to calculate the average level of service provided by the township over the last 10 years. This exercise provides us with an indication of which municipal facilities and equipment will not have sufficient capacity over the next 10 years to accommodate the needs of future growth at historical service levels provided by the township. This information was then used as the basis for preparing a capital expenditure forecast and population projections for the 10-year period of the study. The 10-year capital expenditure forecast was prepared based on the principle of continuing to provide the same average level of service from the past 15 years over the next 10-year period. The forecast ensures that the average level of service is not exceeded, and that key principle that new development only pays for its fair share of the costs. So in order to calculate population and development projections for the Township of Horton, it was necessary to review past demographic, population, and development trends in the municipality. A review of population, property assessment, building permit, and land severance information was undertaken to establish what the annual population was in the municipality over the preceding 10 years. A blend of census data and building permit activity is used to estimate the total permanent and seasonal population over that period. The population over the last 10 years was applied to the inventory of equipment and buildings owned by the township in order to determine the average level of service per person over the past 10 years. The average level of service is typically expressed in a per-person share of equipment, building, or transportation infrastructure. So for example, the standard over the last 10 years for roads was 0.03 kilometers of road per person. And the inventory of equipment and facilities from 2014 to 2023 was prepared based on interviews with township staff and a review of the previous development charges background study that was prepared for the 2018 bylaw. The results of these calculations are presented in our report, which shows the average level of service for capital facilities and equipment in eligible service categories. Next, a growth forecast was prepared for residential and commercial and industrial sectors over the upcoming 10-year period. This growth forecast corresponds with the 10-year time period following the preparation of the study, for which the growth-related need for a development charge can be calculated. The growth forecast has several purposes. It establishes the amount of growth that the municipality will be required to provide services for over the forecasted period. It provides a basis for identifying the level of growth that will be sharing the cost of new capital facilities over the planning period of the study. The population projections provide a basis for determining municipal service standards to ensure that the level of service that the development charge is collected for does not exceed the average level of service provided for over the last 10-year period. And finally, the growth projections form the basis of information from which the actual development charges are determined per new residential unit and per square meter of new non-residential building area. As you can see on this slide, the population of the township is anticipated to grow by 379 people over the course of the next 10 years, and commercial and industrial growth is projected to increase by just shy of 6,000 square meters of space. With respect to service allocation, MPAC assessment is used to allocate the capital costs between residential and commercial industrial growth. It is recommended that 96% of the capital costs associated with the development charges within the general eligible service category, the fire protection category, and the transportation category are allocated to residential growth, and 4% of the capital costs in these sectors allocated to commercial industrial. The 96-4% split represents the fact that 96% of the properties in the township are assessed as residential versus 4% commercial industrial. However, it's worth noting that in the case of the recreation service category, the residential sector is the sole user of this service, and therefore 100% of the capital costs of the recreation service category is allocated to residential users. Our development charges background study includes the individual items within the service categories for which a development charge will be collected and which items are expected to be purchased or constructed over the next 10 years to meet an increase in the need for a service as a result of the anticipated growth. Our report also provides an estimate of the cost in 2024 dollars to acquire or build the particular item in the anticipated expenditure year. The 10-year capital expenditure forecast and the existing development charges bylaw for the lands in Horton was used as the basis for calculating the new development charge. One of the key figures in the report that I can draw your attention to is Table 2A that shows the future municipal expenditures that qualify as growth-related under the Development Charges Act. This table shows the number of facilities and the equipment that need to be constructed or acquired by the township, the net cost per unit or the project cost, and the incremental share of the cost of purchasing the equipment or building a capital facility, which can be attributed to population growth over the 10-year period. The end result of the background study is the proposed new DC rate structure that is on the screen before you. Development charges can be implemented uniformly across a municipality or using a combination of uniform charges and charges for specific service areas, such as an area where there is municipal water and sewer available. A uniform development charge across the township is recommended for Horton for two key reasons. One, there are no municipal water or sewer services, and two, the vast majority of the capital expenditures in the township are designed to service the entire population. So to wrap up, the background study has been prepared in accordance with Section 10.2 of the Development Charges Act and OREG 8298 in support of a new development charges bylaw for the Township of Horton. All required public consultation and public viewing periods for the background study and draft bylaw have been complied with. The proposed development charges are considered to be fair and reasonable compared to other similar rural municipalities within Renfrew County. And lastly, the development charges will allow for the municipality to resume collecting funds to help pay for capital expenditures and improvements associated with the growth of the Township of Horton. With respect to next steps and options for council, council can choose to adopt the recommended rates. Council could choose to adopt different rates. Council could choose to omit certain categories. And council could consider including defined exemptions, such as for, in certain areas, there are exemptions for things like purpose-built rental housing. Our recommendation is that council proceed with adopting the recommended rates with no exemptions other than those prescribed by the Development Charges Act. And the draft bylaw that includes the recommended rates is included in the agenda package for this afternoon's council meeting. And thank you very much for your time. Happy to answer any questions that council may have.
Thank you. That was a great amount of detail. Can I go to questions?
Sure.
Any questions or comments?
Sorry, thank you, Deputy Mayor. Thank you, Anthony, for that presentation. Just a question in regards to subsidized housing or anything like that. I want to move forward with this, but can it be a case-by-case scenario that we bring to council and then get your direction on waiving some fees to assist with that? Or does that have to be incorporated now?
Through you, Deputy Mayor, the Development Charges Act does not allow a municipality to collect development charges for affordable housing. So I believe subsidized affordable housing would be considered in that. So you wouldn't have to do a case-by-case exemption if you were to be reviewing a proposal for affordable housing. You wouldn't be allowed to charge that development charge. And similarly, as I mentioned, for other things that help with affordability, secondary dwelling units, for example, you're not allowed to charge development charges for those as well. So the Development Charges Act, some of the recent amendments have been aimed at fostering affordable housing as best the Act can.
Very good, thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Any other questions, comments?
Just on extraordinary costs that are not typically budgeted, and appreciating that the development charges are only applicable to the growth and not to existing infrastructure or to other. Would that be a fair statement?
Through you, Deputy Mayor, yes, I would say that would be a fair statement. With respect to extraordinary growth, however, we would say the township wanted to build a new municipal building or wanted to build a new fire hall. We would look at that, and the way the study is set up is that, say, 10% of the cost of that new facility would be attributed to, or would be attributable to growth.
Right.
So it,
But they're not accounted for because it's a municipal project. Would that also be correct?
no, not necessarily. It would be accounted for in the development charges. It would just be
Okay, so
kind
it
of
would be
proportionate.
backloaded to the new, or that proportion of, let's say, a new community hall or new fire hall.
Sure.
Just that portion would be applied to the development charges.
Exactly, yes. So that the guiding principle being that existing taxpayers are not burdened with any further, any additional cost based on the new growth, and that new growth isn't paying for the existing service that current taxpayers are paying for.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments?
So Anthony, so the growth pattern you put together for a 10-year capital, does that consider the increase to the 417 4-lane coming this way, and how it compares for our neighboring townships that have experienced that already?
Through you, Deputy Mayor, the report and our background study does not consider the impending 417 extension. We've done our calculations in the math based on historical building permit trends and historical lot severance information, but no, we have not incorporated the coming 417. That is part of why our recommendation would be to continue updating the development charges bylaw every 5 years, rather than just letting this one run for 10.
Okay, and thank you for your report. Again, as the deputy mayor has stated, there is lots of reading in there. Even that statement could create more growth over the next 5 years, hopefully. So, thank you.
Thank you, Anthony. And appreciate you going over this again for us. It was good the first time. It was better this time. You hit on exactly an area that I was wondering about, but if you can just give us a little bit more clarity on the 10-year versus 5-year. If I understand, but certainly update me, is that with passing this bylaw, it has been created with the intent that it could survive for 10 years, but we would continue to look to update every 5. Is that correct?
Through you, Deputy Mayor, yeah, that's correct. And so the way the legislation reads now is that this new development charges bylaw can run for 10 years. Council could choose at any time to reopen it. So if all of a sudden in 3 years or 7 years' time, you're starting to see an inundation of growth and you're starting to say, I think we need to revisit this, then council could direct staff to revisit it at that point.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Last call for any questions, comments? None being heard. Anthony, thank you so much for presenting to us today. This was very good information. I look forward to all those numbers coming true. All right, we will move on to section 6, yes? Section 6, minutes from our previous meeting, September 3rd minutes on page 49 of our package. Do I have a mover to adopt minutes? Thank you. Councillor Humphreys, seconded by Councillor Webster. All in favor? Thank you. Moving on to any business arising from the minutes. None being heard, we'll move on to Section 8, Committee Reports. We'll start with our Transportation and Environmental Services Committee, and I'll pass it over to Chair Humphreys.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Proctor. Yes, on page 52 of our package, it's a meeting that was held on September the 4th, and we had a good meeting, and to say if there's any questions tonight, signed inspection reports were brought forward. The compaction agreements, we'll be talking about that later on in the meeting, and the application of the Trillium Grant and Community Emergency Preparedness Grant is something that we are really looking into, and we made a motion. It'll be brought later on too. Other meetings, we just upgrades on Goshen Road and the different roads that we're working on. Again, we'll talk about the landfill later on for sure, so that's, if there's any questions on that report? Yes.
Just the one that's probably straightforward, some complaints about the cleanup or on Goshen Road?
Yes.
Was that kind of a
No.
weather related or?
No, it's the new, it's chip and tear. That, I guess because all the chips didn't get embedded in the tire properly, so they decided they'd sweep it because it was raising a dust.
Okay.
But they got a very good adhered surface down there now, so, and it just makes it look better, and then there's less problems. We still have that traction grit with the fine chip on there, so, yeah, it was just a cleanup for that, so.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, or?
If I may, you mentioned that we're going to talk landfill later on.
Yep. Yeah, it's on the agenda for later, for the report.
Then I will hold all questions. Thank you. If there's no other questions for Chair Humphreys, thank you, Chair Humphreys. And we'll move over to general government and pass it over to Chair Webster.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Through you, 8.1.1 of our package, page 54. It's our Treasury's report, and I will send it over to our author, Treasurer Moore, please.
Thank you. The main thing that we're kind of been working on right now is we've started the budget process. As mentioned, our department heads all have their working papers. We have sat with them all individually and just kind of went through it and kind of discussed what we're up against for 2025. They do have some solutions coming to the table, which I'm sure we'll see as we progress. We've also been sitting with Evan to revamp our website. He has given us a bit of a shell of what the new website will be. So Hope and I sat with him and kind of reviewed it and tested out a few things. So now he's going to be working on the content and transferring that information over. So once the content is uploaded, we'll probably send a link around just so everybody can have a look at it and see what he's worked on. And that's about it for that. I don't know if anybody has any questions on the summaries for July and August.
Yes, any questions? Councilor Humphreys?
Just the one question, it's really nice to see where our money went in July and August with Stinson's fuel, and I think that's very nice to see that every time we get these agendas, so Fulton's and Greenwood Paving and McKillicud's, et cetera, so it's really nice to see that in writing, so we know you've done a great job, Tally said. It's sort of nice to see it in black and white, so thank you through the chair.
Great, thank you.
And if I
Yes, Deputy
may,
Mayor?
that table is lovely. So thank you for showing us the the goal towards the end of the year. So it's nice to see that we're all within budget and we're going in the right direction. Lovely to hear that the website is being updated and that you're pleased with it, how it's progressing, and look forward to the link when it's ready for others to look at it and take a gander at it. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Any other comments, questions? No? Very good.
No questions, Tally.
Great. Thank you very much for that. And then we will go 8.1.2, staff report, AMO conference report, to our executive assistant.
Yeah, so about a month ago now, Councilor Webster and I attended AMO, so just kind of gave a little update on a majority of the sessions that we sat in on. And if anybody has any questions, we can answer them.
Any questions on that report? Yes, Councilor Humphreys?
Just the one question, where is your report?
I thought it was just staff that had to do the reports. No, it was very informative. Lots of the common feeling out there was that there wasn't much funding being distributed. That was with talking all of the other townships. So hopefully that can change in the very near future to help everybody with their infrastructure and everything else. Yes, Deputy Mayor.
And if I may, I think that was the resounding aspect that I got out of this, was certainly the, almost a bit of that validation that our township is facing similar issues, and that when you heard other people, you made some of those relationships with others that are struggling or maybe challenged the way we are in some ways, so hopefully those relationships will bode well. Yeah, thank you both for attending.
Very good, thank you. Any other comments, questions, Spencer? No, that's everything. I'll pass it back to you, Deputy Mayor.
All right, thank you very much. And we'll go back to Chair Humphreys for our Recreation Committee report, please.
Yes, thank you very much, Deputy Mayor Proctor. It's on page 59 of our package, and it was our first meeting with our new community liaison person, Rachel Eden, which was a really good meeting. And as you see, we covered a lot of stuff. There's been a lot of recreation inventory done. She's really getting her feet under her quickly. Some infrastructure funding. She's been on the look for that. The hall rentals, which will be in our budget coming up for next year. Few Taste the Valleys. We are not equipped to do that, but it was nice to keep in touch to do that every 2 years. So maybe with the new things that are happening down at the rink area, that we'll have a cement floor, and then we can host more things. So that's some pretty good meeting. Hope sat in on the meeting also, and it was everybody was quite involved, and it was interesting to get what was been there for the last, 20 years. Stuff that we're going to try and put in yard sales and garage sales, but there was a lot of stuff left over from previous terms that people decided to do things a different way and stuff. So it's good to have a house cleaning and an inventory. So I think that was the most important part, and how well Rachel handled herself during the meeting. It's a very positive thing. Everybody I've talked to has been very, very positive about her and her fitting in well with the people that drop in and see her and stuff. So very positive. So thank you, Deputy Mayor. So any questions on that report?
Just commenting, I noticed some updates on Facebook and certainly the report here, so Rachel's certainly making her presence known, and happy to see some new ideas coming in, and starting with inventory. I know that was an issue for stocking, and some climbing over one to get to the other. So if that can be cleaned up, that'd be great. One, I see where for the community recreation infrastructure fund, funding starts at 150 for application purposes, and I know we're looking at potentially looking at the concrete pad rink surface again, and accessibility ramps and stuff like that. So just making sure that we have updated prices coming in on that, so that we're, especially when it's the CSRIAF fund 50% and Horton Township 50%, just to, we're kind of like we're shovel ready to present.
Yeah, I know Public Works Manager Adam Knapp put further just a quick thing for a cement pad was 120,000. So that'd give us a ballpark right off the bat to look at, plus the handicap ramp. So we've priced all these things out over the last few years, and have done studies on a lot of infrastructure down there, and we got turned down on the last grants and the one before that. But I mean, we know what we need, and we have just need the coin. And once that goes, we've got the ideas for concrete pad and the wall in the southwest being closed in, and the wall facing the north with chain link, so it'll have the air going through and still look attractive enough with the rink, but just the ice won't melt as fast. So it's at least we have a start of approximate money, and I think if we tender locally, in my own opinion, we can do it cheaper than that, because there's a lot of cement trucks in this area that might just come along and help us. As long as we get somebody to coordinate it, I feel that it's we're going in the right direction with the infrastructure grants and stuff. So And that's my answer for that, so, Councillor Campbell.
If I may, I think it's brilliant, and if that was going to be my question, is if we've not been successful in the past for this grant money, are we optimistic that we're doing something different in this application or applying it to funds differently that we would be successful for this?
We always seem that they send it out and it's always the last minute thing and you can't, they send out, oh yeah, we're gonna give you money, and then by Friday, they've already got it cut off. It's, I was talking to Rachel about Fergus Fairgrounds. We're on the ball and they got 160,000 for new bleachers, new lights, bang, they just were the right timing. So if we can stay on top of it and keep track of what's going on in the rest of the areas in the same size and their situation as we are, I feel we may, but again, as from AMO, nobody's very forthcoming with funds. Whether it's roads, recreation, healthcare, anything else, they're not very passing it around very quickly or too much of it. So I think we are in a good position with what's been done in the background with the Public Works app and with Rachel on the ball and she's communicating a lot with different areas. So I think that's a big help to us that she's on the go for that, so.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. And I did want to echo that what Rachel is doing online is fantastic. She's certainly making more of a presence, so that's great. And you've made me chuckle about the inventory, that maybe we'll have a yard sale or a dollar sale or something one day.
Yeah.
Bring the Historic
It's also
Society.
for fire protection.
Yes, our insurance rates may go down from the
Yeah.
lack of hoarding.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. Thanks very much. No other further comments. Thank you, Chair Humphreys. We'll go on to section 9 of our package. Thank you, Tally. Page 61 will be our hopes memo.
So you've all had a chance to take a look at the information package. We've got the 2024 conference sponsorship opportunities in there, the Renfrew County Day invitation at the end of September, and some information regarding the Climate Matters Forum, and obviously our office calendars. So if anybody has any specific questions.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Just the Climate Matters one, I'm thinking to hope if any staff, I think, should be involved in this. I think it would be very informative for Adam just to hear what's going on out there, other municipalities, and the complaints from residents in regards to that maybe we can be informative for him to maybe foresee issues, and even Rachel for different things. But any of the staff I feel it's relevant, maybe encourage them to go if possible. That's the only thing I had. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Webster. Any other comments? Yes, Councillor
Yeah,
Humphreys.
just one comment. There's two different Renfrew County days. There's one that's based on agriculture, and there's a tour up through that. I guess it's through Whitewater, and it's a day-by-day tour, eh?
Yeah, so that's a separate, I don't think that's
It's
in
not in
the
there. I read it
actual
in
information
another
package.
spot.
Yeah, so it's been disseminated. I believe Rachel will be attending that one as well. This specific Renfrew County Day is just for council and staff if they wish to go up and kind of learn more about each individual departments up at the county and what they do and what they can service for the township.
Yep. Apologize for that. I was reading too far in advance.
Thank you. I fully echo Councillor Webster's comments about the Climate Matters on October 1st. If able to go, it's a public session in Eganville. I've had a few of our neighbors reach out to talk about that they are attending. Unfortunately, I'm not able to attend, and it is a day session. So if anyone would be able to go, certainly relative to the waterways in our community, it would be a good session to go to. Thank you, Hope. We'll move on to section 9.2 action correspondence on page 62. We'll start with our Horton Firefighters Association. Any comments or questions on it? Yes.
Well, just wish them well. I know last year, or was it last year or the year before, the weather was not cooperating too well, but I know they fought through it, and it seems to be growing, and the money they're raising is certainly not unexpected. The firefighters always pull their weight, and hopefully those that can attend come back with some good stories about how good the day went. So I want to thank everybody again for putting this on, and wish them well.
Yes, Councillor Webster.
Thank you. Yeah, I believe we sponsored them last year, the gold thing, and I'm quite comfortable doing that again. I think it was very rewarding for everybody, so I would support if the sponsoring them in the gold sponsor again this year. Thank you.
That was my same question. What did we give them last year? So
Through you, Chair, so we did sponsor the gold sponsor last year at $500, and if you, on page 65, they have submitted an application for donation from the township with the amount requested of $1,000. Just for council's information, $1,000 is what our total budget for the year is to provide for donations. But obviously, it's up to council which they want to donate for the Classic.
I wholeheartedly want to support and love the effort and the time going in, and given how wonderful our firefighters are at all of the trivia nights, it's no doubt they're doing a great thing with our golf tournament. I am in full support to support what we did last year, and leave us room to support other activities in the community of 500, which is their gold level. That would be my area of support.
just one question, because I totally agree, $500 is great support, because the non-firefighters pay $125 each to golf. The firefighters pay $100 each, so anybody that's golfing, we pay an extra $25 to golf. The firemen, according to what I've read, the firemen, the firemen put in a team, it's $100 per person. We put in a team, it was $125 each. So that's another way that they're raising money from the non-firefighters too. So I think 500 is more than enough. Yeah.
Yeah, well said.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, and we'll move on to section 9.2.2 on page 68 of our package relative to a request for leave of absence by Mayor Bennett. Do I have any comments or questions from anybody? Okay. Councillor Humphreys?
Just a little further notice, are we going to receive more information as time goes on? Like, I don't know how many meetings the Mayor Bennett has missed, but it'd be nice to know, he's been off and he's missed a lot of meetings, both with every organization he's been with. So is there, have we spoken through Tony Fleming about this as action? Or we all wish him well, don't get me wrong. I'm just saying, how much can we assume, or how much should we wait on more information on his health? Or is that too personal a business and we should go into closed to talk about that? Or we wait for another week to talk about that in closed? Or in 2 weeks, I mean.
If council wishes to go into a closed session to discuss personal matters, we can certainly do that by motion of council. The leave of absence is there for council to approve for a certain amount of timeline so that we can get those answers forwarded. I am in contact with Mayor Bennett on a weekly basis at this time. There are no concrete updates to his health or anything moving forward at this time, which is why I believe the leave of absence request is coming forward, to give a little bit of reprieve for him to focus on health, and also for council to continue moving forward.
Okay. I would offer that right now we take this as information, and knowing that we've got time before the October 4 deadline, that we at the next meeting, take an action or take a decision, or plan to take a decision, and if need be, go into close to discuss that decision prior to making it, and defer today as a information. I know the leave of absence request was provided to us last Friday, so give us some more time to think through, and to your point, Councillor Humphreys, better understand all of the nuances. Okay, moving on to section 10. Oh, sorry. Oh, sorry, I hadn't heard any questions or comments.
No,
Yeah.
there's a request in front of us from the mayor that we should be compassionate about, and I'm willing to move ahead with this tonight, to grant this, because this is, his request, being the mayor and being on council for so long, so I believe we should not table it and move forward with granting this request, knowing that we can do things down the road with more information down the road, change, but just accepting this request at this time would be my preference.
Okay, any other comments or questions?
Sorry. I think I'm in agreeance with Councillor Webster. Again, this is first seeing like a written request for this, and I think that we should certainly warrant it as it is written. Again, we hope Mayor Bennett all the best, and certainly keeping the communication lines open so that we can hope for a speedy recovery, and then revisit if necessary down the road. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Humphreys, did you want to make any other statements?
No, there's nothing, I will carry that motion that Mr. Webster brought forward. But I think the main thing is we have to, as far as a councillor, we have to be on top of this, that we accept this as a letter tonight, but what happens, we hate for the worst thing to happen, but do we have a backup plan through our legal department to follow through if things go south? That's all I'm saying. I accept this letter, I agree with you, that he's been a mayor, he's been on council for 20 plus years, 30 years, he wears Horton on his shirt. I just want to bring it forward that what is our legal, and if you're just laughing about, thinking about different things, if we were terminating somebody, like the severance package, all this, but we're not terminating anybody, but we should know where we stand. And I say, Mayor Dave Bennett, I've known him a long time, he's very involved, but it's more than just a letter of request. I think it has to be, whether it's Part A or Part B, I think at least it's Part A now, but I think we have to have a follow-up with Part B by October the 4th.
Thank you. So I know we've had meetings on this. We've had closed meetings, and I know in those closed meetings we've been provided information that is not able to be made public, nor should it. It's private. It is with that in mind that I'm not in support, that if we make a decision to go forward with having a action today on the leave of absence, as compassionate as I am for Mayor Bennett as an individual, as a elected official to promote and advocate for the best of Horton Township and Horton's residents, we each are here to do a duty, and 3 months of not being here has had an impact on us. It's had an impact on all of us, and extending that for another 3 months, given what we do know, is not something that I could support at this time. Again, I need to compartmentalize here, though, that does not mean that there's lack of compassion for Mayor Bennett. It's that as elected officials, I do see us needing to act in the best for township residents. And as we sit here, it is not lost on me that we are potentially a lame duck council for this decision because of the situation we're in. Okay, So I will move forward, I guess. I apologize, I'm at a bit of a loss right now for procedure. Hope.
That's fine. Councillor Campbell did have his hand up as well, but procedurally, it will come within the resolution piece and have council a chance to vote at that time. But Councillor Campbell did also have his hand up.
And again, if we're speaking just to the letter tonight, that's what I was going to speak to as well, and any further discussion should be, any concerns should be held in closed session. Thank you.
Agreed. All right, we'll move on to bylaws then. Section 10.1, landfill compacting and covering agreement on page 69 of our package. If I pass that to you, Hope. Thank you.
So this was one of the items referred to earlier in the test chairs report for the landfill compaction and covering agreement. We did have one existing with Brian Dido, which has since lapsed, and now we've updated this existing agreement with just some increased fees just to along with inflation and cost of living. So I believe it's already been discussed at the TES meeting with the draft bylaw to be approved and brought forward by bylaw to be passed by council, and just to further that agreement.
Okay, thank you. Any comments, questions? Yes, Councillor Webster. Or sorry, Campbell.
I'd just like to say Brian Dido has done an exceptional job over the years, and to see his rate, it's not, significant for what, I mean, it is an increase, but I mean, this man has been very fair, and I know previous councils and previous committee chairs of the landfill site can't speak enough of what he can do with his machine, and that he's always there, and that his professional breakdowns are minimum, and even if that little extra is asked for, he jumps right in. So I think we've got a real gold star in Brian Dido, and for to see no surprise cost of living or COLA allowance, if this is what he's considering he needs, annually in an increase, I think this man has been very fair, and we're quite lucky to have him. Thank you.
Any other comments, questions? My only question, Hope, is in the TES report, it was indicated that the grinding at the landfill has not been up to standard and is behind on timeline. This has nothing to do. This is about landfill compacting and covering.
Yes, it is, yeah.
Two separate items
Two-
completely.
Two separate issues, yeah.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, move on to development. I was going to say bylaw charges. Development charges bylaw.
So again, this is the bylaw that Anthony referenced in his presentation for the development charges with the recommendations that he presented earlier this evening. And there is a resolution coming up to have this adopted this evening.
Wonderful, thank you. Any questions, comments? No? None being heard, we will go to section 11, notice to file motion for next council meeting. And moving on to section 12, which will be council and staff member concerns. Any being heard? Councillor Webster?
Thank you. Just a reminder, the next meeting, October 1st or whatever it was, do you send out a Zoom for that? Because I'll be not available to be in person. How does that work? That's my question.
So under our procedural bylaw for the electronic participation, you can certainly participate via Zoom, so we will send the link as long as you can attend, and then the chair will be here and we can move forward as usual.
Thank you.
Yay, technology. Any other comments or questions? Yeah.
Thank you for asking that question. I wasn't sure myself, so thank you.
Wonderful. I will raise two items, and I have pamphlets, if you bear with me just for a moment. I had the pleasure of meeting with a company by the name of Watersheds Canada, and I'll pass this around. I do apologize, it's slightly wrinkled. A preservation organization that's really focused, obviously, on watershed, and certainly relative to our waterways. They work a lot with, and I'm probably not doing them justice, but native wildflowers to encourage not only the native preservation, but also the healthy water of our areas, and then the natural edge. They have offered to come and visit with us and present to council. They would attend by Zoom. So I'd like to offer this as information with my fellow council members, and I'll pass that around later. And I'll share the website for information to see when it might be impactful. I was thinking towards sometimes in the winter to get ready for spring, as people may be planning some of their landscaping projects or what have you, to have some of this as top of mind. The other thing I wanted to raise was relative to private roads and an open house to share best practices and share, comings and going relative to ensuring that fire trucks and ambulances can get down the private roads, snowplows can get down, hopefully not for weeks yet, and also just the overall association process brought in by our grant program. I wonder if I could canvass council for support to see if we could direct staff to look for a date whereby when we could have that open public house. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I think we should have an open house, but I know we are talking about this, Councillor Humphreys, at our next test committee. That was to be on the agenda, is that correct, Nikki? That we are moving forward with this, so I think it should be in collaboration. Maybe let us get a little bit of homework done first before we have the open house, and bring it back if that's okay with you for timelines. But I know our October meeting, it was going to be on the agenda to talk about this.
Okay. My only concern is seasonal residents make up a significant amount of representation on private roads, and often closing day is Thanksgiving. So I'm mindful of finding a time when they might still be in Horton, and knowing that we need protective services as part of the meeting as well, Tom, which meets Thursday of this week. Perhaps what we could do is take a motion tonight to ask staff to look of when it could be. And that might still then, while that's going on in parallel, give the test committee enough time to do a little bit of background to support that open house. And it would, my thought is just that, an open house versus a presentation. Okay, others' thoughts though?
Just as you mentioned protective services on Thursday night, just to ensure that Chief Cole and has a chance to, I know he's been doing lots of background work and assessments, and I guess that'll have to double up with the test committee as well, and then to do a joint presentation. So, thank you.
Do we have consensus to direct staff? Yeah, wonderful. Thank you all. Any staff concerns to raise? None being heard? We will go into resolutions, and I'll pass it over to you, Hope.
That upon recommendation from the test committee, council enter into an updated agreement with Brian Dito for compaction and covering at the landfill site in Horton, and that this be brought forward by bylaw.
Moved by Councillor Humphreys, seconded by Councillor Campbell. All in favor?
That upon recommendation from the test committee, council direct the public works manager to apply for the community emergency preparedness grant for sandbagging machine, emergency signage trailer, and variable message board on trailer.
Moved by Councillor Webster, seconded by Councillor Humphreys. All in favor?
That upon recommendation from the test committee, council approve Lois Graveline as public advisory member to the test committee.
Moved by Councillor Webster, seconded by Councillor Humphreys, by Councillor Campbell. All in favor? Thank you.
That upon recommendation from the Recreation Committee, council direct and support staff to make application to the Community Sport and Recreation Infrastructure Fund, Stream 1, repair and rehabilitation for the purpose of extending the existing lifespan of the outdoor rink facility, enhance accessibility features to meet community needs, and improve overall local programming.
Do I have a mover? Thank Thank you, Councillor Campbell. Seconded? Councillor Webster, all in favor?
That council received the following reports as information: staff report, treasurer's report, staff report, AMO conference report, test chairs report September 4th, recreation chairs report July 11th.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Humphreys, seconded by Councillor Webster. All in favor?
That council received the CAO clerk's information memo for September 17th, 2024.
Moved by Councillor Campbell. Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Webster. All in favor?
That council agreed to be a gold sponsor for the Horton Firefighters Association Golf Classic and donate $500.
Moved by Councillor Humphreys, seconded by Councillor Webster. All in favor?
On this next item, can I have a recorded vote, please?
Okay. That council accept the leave of absence request from Mayor Bennett until December 31st, 2024. So I do need a mover and a seconder.
Moved by Councillor Webster, seconded by Councillor Humphreys. With
Okay.
recorded vote, we'll go around. Councillor Webster?
In favor.
In favor? Councillor Campbell?
In favor?
Councillor Humphreys?
In favor this time, yes.
And I will be a no at this time.
Okay, motion is carried. That council enact the following bylaws: 2024-33 landfill compaction and covering agreement, and 2024-34 development charges bylaw.
Do I have a mover? Councillor Campbell? Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Webster. All in favor?
That council went into a closed session meeting at 4:57 PM to discuss the following items pursuant to Section 239(2)E of the Municipal Act, litigation or potential litigation, Tomlinson Group zoning bylaw amendment.
Moved by Councillor Campbell, seconded by Councillor Webster. All in favor? So turned. Thank you for that. Hope, I'll pass over to you.
That council came out of close in-camera session at 5:02 PM and discussed items pursuant to Section 239(2)E of the Municipal Act, litigation or potential litigation, Tomlinson Group zoning bylaw amendment.
Thank you. Councillor Webster, seconded. Councillor Campbell, all in favor?
That council approved the minutes of settlement presented in closed session and authorized the CAO clerk to execute the agreement.
Moved by Councillor Humphries, thank you. Seconded. Councillor Webster, thank you. All in favor?
That council enact bylaw 2024-35, confirming bylaw.
Moved by Councillor Campbell, seconded by Councillor Humphries, all in favor? We are adjourned. Thank you all.